Today I want to show you what I do to try to safely get through the Sandworm Lair, specifically the alternate layout. This is a zone where it's extremely easy to die, so it helps to do some extra preparation. I first got to this zone on level 20, but upon seeing that it's the alternate layout, I decided to do Daikara, the Old Forest, the Hidden Compound, and then also the Ruined Halfling Complex to hit level 25 and get my first Prodigy, because of the likely possibility that you will get stuck in one of these rooms and have to fight to the death, at which point you want to be as powerful as possible. And the Prodigy should be a big help here. I got Ethereal Form, gives me a bunch of defense, a little bit of damage, pen, and damage reaction. I don't always do this, it highly depends on how powerful your character is, how much mobility you have, if you have track, if you have the Belt of Unlife, but in this kind of video I'll try to show you as many of the tools as possible. Unfortunately though, the Belt of Unlife I do not have. I went through all the shops and basically every town in the game sells belts, but this run is one of the very rare scenarios where I just couldn't find it, which makes this a lot more dangerous, as just letting the sand cover you, putting on your Belt of Unlife, and always having the option to teleport out is one of the safest, best tools to deal with this zone. But at the same time, I've already shown it in like the Sun Paladin video, so this time I'll have to do something else. I'm also a ranged character, which is cheating a little bit. It's obviously way easier to be ranged than melee for this type of zone, but what can you do? Alright, so I've already made sort of a mistake. Ideally, if you have track, you want to use it before you encounter any of the rooms, so that you can pre-buff or potentially hide if there are like 5 uniques waiting for you. But this is still important. You will always see that you are about to enter new rooms, so if you have any sort of shield, any talent like that, that's the time to use it. And it looks like this might just be an empty room, so not much happening here. Between each room you should aim to always get all your cooldowns back. This does mean it's very tedious because we have to wait for the next worm, but at the same time it's very worth it. So for example right now I will not go into this room, although I can scout it with track. I don't see anything, I'm just going to wait for the next one. You have to be really patient to get through this zone safely. It does not reward trying to rush. And it's also very different. Sometimes it's very easy and you just don't run into any really unfair rooms, and sometimes it's just one room after the other where there are just too many enemies in the same place. So we'll see what's going to happen this time. Here, since the shield has a really long cooldown, I'm probably just going to wait each time. This next room has 2 rares. So what I can actually do here, since I'm ranged, I can pull one of them. Since this is about to start closing in, the easiest, safest way to kill enemies is to let the environment kill them. So if I do this, this will not aggro them because they are in the vault, which actually makes them immune. So yeah, I will need to let them spot me before I attack them. But this is ideal length to still apply the strategy where you don't actually fight them, but you just run back. And the more mobility you have, the easier it is, but it is possible also with just a movement infusion. So the key here is to kind of get a feel for how long it takes for the unstable sand tunnel to start closing in. And I don't really know how many turns it takes, but I just kind of have a feel for it. So I'm going to hide first because I don't want to aggro the enemies too early. And now I can put the shield on and go and aggro them. Okay, so they both are aggroed and it's starting to close in already. So let's just walk back. I even have a mind control hex that I can use here to have them fight each other, which should give me enough time for them both to die. And you can tell if they died, well, either with track or if you get experience, it means they died. Here we have track, so they killed each other, and they both died actually before the tunnel even touched any of them. This is something that's really not a big risk, because I mean, the worst case scenario is that they manage to reach you before the tunnel closes in, and then you have to fight them and kill them, which you will have to do anyways if you walk into their room, so just something you can always do. Although obviously it depends on the distance between the two rooms. Sometimes you don't have that option. Oh yeah, and I should have mentioned it at the start, but you know which tiles are safe on the bottom right. If it says unstable sand tunnel, it's going to close in eventually. If it says sand, then it's safe. So one of the other strategies you have to try and avoid being locked in a fight to the death is the Rod of Recall. And this takes 40 turns, but since you have a lot of time here, you can manipulate this. So I can click it right now, before I'm even close to getting to the next room, and hopefully, well, not here because the next room is right there, but the idea is that by the time you are getting to the next room, you have this on like 6-7 turns. So if it turns out there's just way too many enemies and you can't fight them, you just recall out. The Rod of Recall does get stopped by certain debuffs, so it's not 100% reliable, but it's something you can do. The downside to this is that you are going to forget, and you're going to teleport out, and then you have to do the Walk of Shame back to where you teleported out. Trust me, this happens. I've done this video once already, but I forgot to record for most of it. But maybe it's a good thing that I did, because I teleported out like 5 or 6 times while explaining this. It was pretty embarrassing. So yeah, that's something, it's going to happen, because as you fight you're going to forget, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Now unfortunately, if I teleport out now, I am a Doom Elf, and I'm going to get into the Anteroom of Agony, so I really don't want to do it. So hopefully I'm not gonna make that mistake. So in this next room, it looks to be just a single rare, so we can just try and find it. I am a bit over-leveled for the zone at this point, since I originally came at level 20, now I'm level 26, the rares are level 23. So that's another reason to get a few levels elsewhere. In general, the fights will be much easier. Alright, and we just wait here, because you know, there could be the next room like right here. So if I decide to go here and rest in this room, I might be forced to take the next fight without Haste of the Doomed, for example. So it's always best to just go back to the original room, wait for the next verb, and just take it real nice and slow. Next room again seems to only have one rare, and it's pretty close. So it's ideal. This kind of distance is perfect. What you don't want to happen is for you to use track at the edge of the room and to not see anything. That's the worst, because it means you just have to commit to the tunnel, and that's where the Rod of Recall strategy comes in handy. So if that happens, I'm going to press it again. But until that happens, I'm not going to press it, because, like I said, I can't really afford to forget about it, and it's very likely to happen. So here we can utilize the Mind Control Hex and apply some debuffs. So Butcher will even kill this Crust for me, which is nice. And also, this is kind of a tip for Corruptor. If you cast the Soul Rod, which only has 1000% travel speed of base at maximum range, it won't travel to that place before you get your next turn. So you can use both of your projectiles before you break the Mind Control Hex, because it breaks when you deal damage to them. So they both died, I think. Yep, but I'm just going to rest in this first room. Okay, so here's the example of not being able to see the next room. I see a brawler here, just in the sand. I don't like that. Brawlers are pretty annoying. So, gonna click my ref recall, and hopefully not forget about it. And let's see how this goes. Usually after you take like 6-7 tiles from the first room, you can again track and you should be able to see the next room, which is right here, and it looks to be pretty safe, only one bulwark. At this point, if you want to be real safe, you could cancel the ref recall before you forget about it fighting one of the enemies, and I'm actually going to do that because I will forget about it. And this brawler, this is a pretty annoying fight since I will have to take it in this room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aggro it, and now I'm just going to run back to the original room just so I'm not pressed by this sand filling in. And with a bit of luck, he won't even be able to reach me. I did cancel the ref recall, perfect. He did make it, unfortunately, but you can see how this is a lot more comfortable than if I had to just stand next to him and not have any space to run away and then immediately be pushed into the next room, because who knows, maybe there's something stealthed. Alright. The worms don't exactly take the same path, but they usually hit every single room, so they are reliable in that way. Okay, now we see everything. There's just 2 bulwarks, one of them can't even move. This should be very easy, but you should always be careful in these rooms since you can't run away, and in this case, since I don't have the Belt of Unlife, this is exactly why this zone is dangerous. So imagine even if you also didn't have track, you would just go in completely blind. Yeah, that's really dangerous. This looks to be like a weird double or triple room. These are also really dangerous, especially if they don't have any way to hide, like this one. So if the worm just decides to go sideways like this, he's going to open both rooms and aggro me to both sides. Maybe I can hide here and not aggro this room. But yeah, I'm just going to run back again. Like, I don't really have anything to recharge, only the track, but just didn't feel quite right. I want track to get as much information as possible. Alright, so again, it looks like only 2 rares, not a single unique. Top one is a summoner, that's a little annoying, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. Corruptor is especially good at this zone because of the domination hacks, where I can just turn the strongest enemy to my side, which is really good at this point of the game because a lot of the enemies can't cleanse effects. Eventually, like against the orcs, I imagine this will be a lot worse because everyone will just be able to cleanse this, but right now it's really, really powerful. So let's get rid of the summoner. Now you'll see a lot of this is reliant on track, which you either get from an escort or you can find it on items, so like a lantern like this. And not having track does make it a lot more painful, but for these next couple rooms, let's try doing it without track. I'm confident enough that I'm over-leveled enough that I should not be risking much. So without track, the only information you get is 1 turn before the room gets opened, so you can pre-buff. And then you have no idea if there are any enemies waiting around the corner. So you just kind of risk it. And there's not much strategy or planning. You just try and kill everything. And then without track, you 100% have to play it real slow and go hide. Well, here again we do not see the next room with track, so let's do the Rod of Recall. And I won't use track again, just to not cheat. Although, I'd say not having track is about as rare as not having the Belt of Unlife. If you have either track or Belt of Unlife, it gets so much easier. If you don't have either, it's going to be a nightmare. Okay, so right now this is kind of the point of no return. This is about to fill up, so I can't go back. And this is exactly where the Rod of Recall is perfect, because it's still a plan B. Otherwise, I'm just fighting to the death. Alright, it looks pretty easy at first glance. 2 rares, Vermig, Summoner. Let's have the Vermig help us out. Okay, there's still 7 turns on the Rod of Recall. I really don't want to forget about that. But at the same time, you know, maybe there's a unique right here and a random boss right here, so you still shouldn't cancel it. Okay, it looks like I'm good. Now I'm going to cancel the recall. You can cancel basically any of these buffs by right-clicking at them and clicking yes. It doesn't even take a turn, it's an instant speed action. Yet again, I do not see the next room, so we're going to use the Rod of Recall, although we need to wait for the next worm because I waited too long and it would probably be like 15 turns by the time we open the next room, which would be too late. Let's pop it. Okay, let's wait one more time, because some of these, if they are Chronomancers, they will have celerity, which increases their movement speed, which just throws all the timings off. So I'm going to wait for the next worm. And it looks like the next room is actually right there. It just might be empty. So I'm not even going to Rod of Recall because I can just run back if things are not looking good. And yeah, it's just completely empty. Alright. So pretty lucky so far. I don't think we've run into any uniques yet, which is what you want it to look like. Nice and easy. There's a brawler right here, which is unfortunate, but shouldn't be too much of a problem. And the next room is visible, but we're going to wait for the next one. Okay, a doomed is the perfect enemy for Corruptor because of the unique ability to strip any sustains. So I can just say you don't get any shadows on Doomed, which makes the class quite a bit weaker. And I really don't want to go back and be careful, but I'm going to do it. I've died in this zone enough that it made me disciplined. I wasn't born this way, but each painful death humbles you a little more in Tome. I don't see the next room here, so we do the Rod of Recall. We didn't really have to do a lot of maneuvering and like running back, since most of the rooms had like 1-2 rares. This is usually how this goes, but you want to be prepared if you get one of the really unfair rooms. It just pays off to be careful. This next one, again, looks to only have a single rare. And it's dead. And I didn't cancel the Rod of Recall. So this means I'm going to teleport to the Anteroom of Agony with like 80% probability. I mean, this was bound to happen, really. I was considering just doing this once and not doing it again, but then I thought there's no way I forget again. But I just did, so this is not that much of a problem, because since I already got my first Prodigy, I should survive. But it makes recording this Sandworm Lair walkthrough a little more annoying. So let's see what happens. Well. This is unfortunate. I don't think there's much to say about the Enter Room of Agony. It's a pretty simple zone. The only interesting part about it is that it's overtuned if you teleport into it on like level 18. Right now it should be hopefully fairly easy. So I'll be back once I'm in the Sandworm Lair. Alright, so I made it back with an extra level. Let's talk about these chests. In the Insane Roguelike survival guide video I did, I said that the only purpose in Sandworm Lair is to get the heart of the Sandworm Queen and to get out. And I stand by that. I still think like it's just so easy to die in this zone compared to the other zones. It's just not worth the risk, in my opinion. But a couple days ago I saw that there was a conversation in global chat where someone asked, you know, if they should explore Sandworm Lair or not. And wait a second, I'm getting killed here. The answer they got was that they absolutely should full clear Sandworm Lair because it drops really good loot. And that's true, right? You can get like tier 5 random artifacts from some of those chests, which will, you know, give a lot of power to your character. But in my experience, it's like just not even close to worth it, right? You are gambling because obviously the item might not even be one that you can use, or even one that rolls well. Here we get a room with a unique, finally. Well, it's a good layout where I can still run back. And I can now use the Rod of Recall without being afraid of teleporting to the Enter Room of Agony, because I already did it. So this is a Saw Butcher Cursed. It's 5 levels lower than me. So it looks to be alone also. So shouldn't be much of a problem. And it wasn't. And you know, based on this video and based on how oh yeah, and I forgot to turn off the Rod of Recall. I wish I could say that this is because I am talking and focusing on multiple things at once. But even when I'm just playing by myself, this happens all the time. So I'm going to save you the 5 minutes that it takes to run all the way back. I guess back to the argument of whether or not you should full clear Sandworm Lair. It just really comes down to how confident you are you're not going to die, right? Because obviously it is best to full clear every single zone to get the best loot and to get as powerful as possible and kind of get ahead of the curve, of the scaling curve of the game. But this is the single zone that has just humbled me a lot. Or at least out of the zones that are not optional. Obviously something like Dark Crypt, right? That also drops really good loot, if you can clear it. And, you know, this run that I did, I should be near to the end, and it looked really easy, right? I was not really ever in danger of dying. But I think that's a little deceiving. You know, there were like 3 of the rooms that had really long distance between them that could have been death traps, right? If they had the right mixture of enemies, those are like the perfect locations to die. Okay, so we're back where we teleported out. There seems to be a little room here with basically no terrifying enemies. I think I'm going to wait for the next worms. I just get stressed out when they are both next to each other. I don't like it. Alright, and there's a random boss. This is a perfect example, right? Right now, I made a pretty big mistake. I didn't really prepare for this, so I don't have my Rod of Recall. I do have a way out. This room, I can make it back there. But, you know, I let the enemies get the drop on me, which you usually should always try your best to avoid. Now this should be manageable, just because I am overleveled, and Cursed Rogue is not the scariest combo, and it seems to be the only enemy in these 2 rooms. But I might just reset anyways, exit, and run all the way back here, get all my cooldowns back. I would assume that it didn't die here, that it's this invisible dot right here. That's another advantage of this hex, it de-aggroes enemies, or at least sometimes I have to do some more testing, because I thought it always de-aggroes them, but then one time they didn't de-aggro. Alright, so this time we know what's coming. There's a summoner here that maybe the worm will also open the way to the summoner, but that should be fine. So I can pre-shield, get as much distance as possible. We can also waste the rampage, because he will just stand here. The domination hex lasts 5 turns, rampage only 4, so that's unlucky for him. Which means maybe I shouldn't have corrosive dwarmed so early, but it's too late. I could also just pitiless, although I forgot at which tile he is. He's either here or here. Well, let's do it here. Oh, I couldn't do it. So he's here. That's nice that it didn't waste itself. And now I think I have like a turn. Or maybe 2. And now we can start firing projectiles at him. He should be basically dead. He is not. Did I miss him? Well, but the corrosive worm is about to explode, and that should be the end of him, so let's do a bone spike. And he's dead. Alright, so that was probably the most dangerous one so far. And still pretty easy, since he was by himself. But you see what I mean about this zone? It's just uncomfortable. I just don't like it. I don't like being in this zone. I don't like having my back against the wall and just limited options. I just don't like it. The less time I can spend here, the better. Alright, well, we made it through the first level. Now on the second level, the alternate layout only has 2 floors. The usual layout has 4 floors, I think. So at first you always just want to wait, clear the first room if there are any enemies, and then wait, because you will aggro. Just random Sandworm tunnelers will aggro to you. And they can even open up paths to other rooms if you are unlucky. So you just want to stand still, so that you can teleport out or just walk out if anything too dangerous happens. And this should, within like the first 30 turns maybe, and they should all rush you and you should be good to go. But then there's the Sandworm Queen, and the way the Sandworm Queen works is that she will automatically aggro onto you after, I think, 500 turns in this zone. Or you could find her, like she is somewhere here, somewhere spawned on the level. But if you don't find her within 500 turns, she will just run towards you. So the danger here is that if you are fighting some other enemies and you hit that 500 turn threshold, she might ambush you. She's not really very dangerous, but if she ambushes you in a bad spot, that obviously gets a lot more dangerous. So what you can do is simply rest right here for the 500 turns. An easy way to do this is to click on the Rod of Recall, then immediately cancel it, and since this uses a lot of power, it means you have to rest for a long time to recharge it, which is ideal for what we want to do. So I'm just going to wait here. We are even getting ambushed by a brawler over there, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. It should take about 2 charges, since 1 turn is 1 charge, and when she aggroes onto you, you will get a pop-up, so you can't be surprised. Now there's a rogue trying to ambush me. They just won't leave me alone. Alright. So it should happen pretty soon. There it is. The ground shakes, something very large is stirring in the distance. This means the Sandworm Queen has aggroed onto you. So now I should not have continued resting, obviously. So let's see. Immediately they took down all of my bone shields. So what I think I'm going to do is just teleport or walk out. I recharge my bone shield, maybe actually do the level up. Let's put it into Corrupted Negation temporarily. This is unfortunate, since she already summoned her summons. Well, I can mind control her still, but it gets a little more annoying. Let's do the shield, and let's see what we can do. Yeah, the Hydra and the Rich Flame Spitter. Let's mind control her anyways. She resisted it? Or does this not work on bosses? I think maybe it doesn't work on bosses, because this has happened a few times before. Alright, so let's not waste our first action like that. We're just going to have to kill her the old-fashioned way. Which is fine, we should have more than enough damage. Take number 3. These should all get wiped out by the Blood Spray. Or if they don't get wiped out, the Bone Spear should wipe them out. Let's try to aim to hit the Hydra. I guess this is good enough. Or I can just do Corrupted Negation. That's also good. There we go. And now, do I need to debuff her? Probably not. She should just die to my projectile. Oh, she even rushed me, which is very nice. And I pressed my healing instead of Shatter Afflictions, which is unfortunate. Although blind, honestly, blind doesn't even do anything to me, since I don't really need to see her if I know she's right next to me. Yeah, I'm playing this fight really poorly. I'm not pressing the right buttons, but I'm just getting it over with. Hopefully this doesn't bite me. But yeah, she seems to be dead. I still have all of my bone shields up. Yeah, there we go. So now I just... Oh, it's actually not even outside of the sand, so I don't need to rush to pick up the heart. There we go, got the heart. And I'm just going to leave. Sure, I'm super overleveled. Yeah, I could clear this out if I went through it real careful. But I'm not going to do it, because I don't like this zone. And I've already went through most of the tips how to deal with the regular layout in the Insane Survival Guide, and I'll link to the timestamp for that in the description if you want to see that. Mostly it's all about that Belt of Unlife and track. That's kind of the repeating pattern for this zone. So yeah, I hope you don't feel like I cheated too much by being overleveled. I just want to show you can do that. And also, I've been ill, so my voice was just completely dead. I couldn't really speak for the past week and a half. But I wanted to continue playing my Corruptor, but I couldn't make this video. And I saw the excuse to level over the first Prodigy, so I took it. I might do another one of these for like some of the late game zones. So either the Orc Prides or maybe even like High Peak. But I think Sandworm Lair is by far the most different zone. Most of the other ones are just being careful, using track, and there's not really many surprises waiting for you. Thank you for watching.